Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday. Welcome back. Let's do our bell ringer. It says the diagram, we know we have a diagram. We know our answer is probably in the diagram, so that's good news. The diagram represents the separation of a snail population because of the development of a river in the area. The snails are unable to cross the river. Before we even move on, I saw some big key words in here. Whenever we see the word separate and anything about snails, in this case snails, not being able to cross the river. And then when we look at this picture here, there are a bunch of bells and whistles going off in my brain because this to me sounds a lot like speciation. What is speciation? I'm glad you asked. It's the creation of a brand new species, which is easy because it looks like it has the word species in it. So we're creating a brand new species. Again, anytime you see a picture like this where we have one group that is separated by something, we are probably talking about speciation. I'd be shocked if we weren't talking about speciation, okay? So immediately think brand new species. When you see two groups separated, think new species. Trust me. Okay, rant over. What is the question actually asking? Which is the likely fate of these two groups of the snail population? Okay, so let's go through this with speciation in mind, because remember, we got this group now separated. This group here cannot interact with this group here. So these snails, they're hanging out. These snails, they're hanging out, but they are not hanging out with each other. No. Let's take a look here, and let me zoom in because these words are tiny. Okay, what's likely going to happen to these two groups? A says over time, both groups will become extinct because of the reduction of the number of mates. Now, extinct, I know we remember, means that the whole species is completely dead. Now, let's look at this picture up here. None of these snails look lonely to me. This snail could totally mate with this snail, and this snail could totally mate with this snail. What's wrong with that? Again, they cannot cross the river to mate. So this snail cannot go over here, because snails can't swim. That's just ridiculous. So these guys can definitely reproduce together though. So this isn't even really true. I don't really see how that would be a problem. So let's just scratch out A. B says over time, both groups will flourish rapidly due to the lack of competition for food and space. Now again here, that doesn't really have anything to do with speciation. Perhaps, and we don't really have enough information to really say that. Looking at that picture, how do we know if there is lack of competition for food and space? We don't really know that for sure. There's still going to be competition. We know that's definitely true because we still have snails trying to fight over, in this case, eating certain grass or, finding a good place to sleep. There's almost always going to be competition, but we don't really have enough information to know if now there's less competition or more competition. It just doesn't have anything to do with speciation. Again, don't get tripped up on things that sound like really good. That sounded like it would be a good answer. But remember, we are really focusing over here on speciation. We want to think about the creation of a new species. So C says, over time, both groups will become more genetically different and become two distinct species. There's that key word, two distinct species. Distinct is a fancy way of saying different or new. I'm going to write that. Distinct is different and they're new, okay? So here over time, since these snails are reproducing with each other and these snails are reproducing with each other, I'm going to change them to green. their genes are being swapped and passed down to the next generation of snails, and their genes over here are being swapped and passed down to the next generation of snails. But again, since they're not crossing the river, it's not mixing together. So we are going to see over time these different populations grow more and more different until they are eventually a brand new, distinct species. So absolutely, I love choice C. But let's, real quick, why is choice D wrong? It says over time, both groups will develop the same new traits because they live on soil with different properties. Again, that sounds like a fancy answer. It sounds real smart, but does this picture give you any information about the type of soil they live on? No. We have no information about that. If a question throws in info that sounds real good but has nothing to do with the question, it's probably not the right answer, okay? And again, it says we'll develop the same traits, but we know that the opposite is happening here. We're going to eventually become more and more different, not the same. So D is not going to be our answer. So go ahead and put choice C. Tell me why it is correct, and I'll see you at direct instruction.